ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another thrilling 32 Throwdown. Today we're going to be talking about Renegade from Valleyfair going up against Rampage from Alabama Splash Adventure. Andy, this is one that during the selection show, you and I immediately identified as one of the most difficult first-round picks that people would have to make here in the Thrilling 32 Bracket Challenge. Let's break it down here. So Renegade, a 2007 creation from Great Coasters International. Renegade is a ride that you and I think should be ranked a little bit higher, generally speaking. The highest it's ranked is only number 17, but it's also only ever been as low as number 22. So it really hasn't fluctuated that much over the years. It's always been right around the number 20 mark. But a thrilling 32 all-time record of just 2-4 for Renegade. Now, Rampage, on the other hand, at Alabama Splash Adventure, opened in 1998. It's from Custom Coasters International, right there in their heyday when they were building rides like Rampage, Tremors, Legend, Ghost Rider, right around that same time. It ranked as high as number 5 a few years ago, if you remember that surprise year where Rampage was number 5, and it's been as low as number 14. So historically a little bit higher than Renegade, an all-time thrilling 32 record of 5-3. So, Andy, what are your thoughts here on Renegade versus Rampage?
Well, you know, the thing that strikes me right off the bat is the fact that these are two rides at parks that people may or may not have traveled to. Alabama Splash Adventure, a little bit out of the way. Renegade sat, standing but not operating for a number of seasons. Even before that, not a whole lot of people going down to Visionland. Now that, it's now reopened as Alabama Splash Adventure and some new life has been breathed into the ride, we hear a lot more people going there to ride it, and usually people have very high things to say about it. On the flip of the coin, you have Renegade, also at a park, Valleyfair, that is a little bit far out of the way. A lot of people haven't been up to Valleyfair up in Minnesota. But once again, a ride that when people ride it, a lot of people like to talk high things about it. I think the two ride experiences are very different too, where you have this GCI, twister, kind of a quasi-twister, in Renegade, has some great speed to it, but you still have those great twister elements that, those are known for. Renegade, more about the lateral forces and the drops. More so, I almost would say almost like a classic wood coaster would be, but very compact as well, that a lot of the structure goes in and around itself. So two very different ride experiences, two very great ride experiences, but both of them are rides that I may think maybe not a whole lot of the voters have gotten to.
And that's the other tough part here is that a lot of the voters and bracket submitters it could be possible where they haven't ridden either of these rides, so they're really just going off of hearsay and what people talk about. I mean, Renegade has very much a GCI feel to it. It's sort of an out and back, but it's got twister elements to it, whereas Rampage is very much a twister, a lot of going in and out of its own structure, a lot of drops, a lot of laterals, whereas Renegade very airtime centric, but also has some good GCI turns and laterals as well. And GCI and CCI have very different styles. GCI coasters have a certain style, have a certain way that they execute the elements, whereas the CCI rides, from this time, the late 90s, early 2000s, very much had a similar feel, had a similar execution to the elements. The turns, the drops were all executed in similar ways. And I think if you were to pick a 2000s GCI, Renegade's a very good example of one, and Rampage is a very good example of some of the best work that CCI did. So I think in that regard, there is some comparison here, but the two styles are very different from one another. And these are two rides that I have ranked very, very highly, both of them. Rampage is right there at the number 10 spot for me, and Renegade is only a few spots behind it there at number 16. So I put Rampage slightly higher on my personal list, but honestly, I would not have a problem with either of these coasters winning and moving on. I think depending on the experience, depending on the day, and how maybe each ride is running, where you sit, even how long you wait in line, I would not see a problem with either of these rides ranking above the other.
Yeah, and I personally have Rampage ranked higher. I think Rampage is going to take the victory in this matchup. But, like you said, both rides are so close. I think it's going to be real interesting to see what happens in this throwdown. But we won't know until February 2nd when we reveal the first round of the Thrilling 32 bracket. So make sure that you get your bracket submissions in before then. We'll be accepting those at Thrilling32.com all through that time period. So, as always, I am Andy Robarchek from Chicago, Illinois.
I'm Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
Right on, Ride Warriors.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.